About 100 years ago, 60% of all Americans lived in rural areas, small towns and farms. Today, only about 25% of us call the open spaces home. Our grandparents and great-grandparents moved away to find better opportunities in the cities. They left behind the one-street towns and mercantile stores for superstores and majestic skyscrapers. Unfortunately, something else seems to have gotten left behind in the move. Something we city dwellers crave more with each anonymous day. A sense of community. The feeling that if you were ever in need, your neighbors would be right there, offering whatever they had to help. And you'd do the same for them. Then again, maybe this feeling wasn't left behind. Maybe our grandparents did take it with them, and it's just stored in our attic somewhere. We just haven't unpacked it yet.
Good day, sir.
What do you got for me?
Can I unlock the doors?
Oh. Yes, that's what I was waiting for.
5 or 6 families.
All right. I suppose there's much else we can do.
It's a tragedy is what it is. Losing your parents 5 years ago and now a grandmother.
Now, I heard the sheriff say that the fire started in the kitchen around midnight, just swept through the house. Mabel did not even have a prayer.
All right, so the girl shouldn't have made it. But the story is somebody climbed right up there and grabbed her out of the fire.
Does anybody know who it was?
Nope. You didn't stick around to say it.
All right, we need to get started here. Sheriff Bates tells me that he has just had the final word from the state records office that young Lucy Fuller has no living relatives. Ordinarily, in a case like that, the child would be sent to an orphanage. But that's not the way we do things in our town. We take care of our own. Which brings us to today. Who is best suited to take young Lucy into their home to raise as their child? All right, now, we're going to do this by oral testimony. Each man or woman will have a chance to plead his cause to provide this child with a home. After I've heard everyone speak who wants to, I'll make my decision, and that will be final. Well, unless there's anyone else who has anything to say. All right, Sheriff. Would you bring young Lucy in, please? It's all right, honey. You just take a seat right there. It's all right, honey. Lucy, we're all gathered here because we're concerned about you. And we want to find a proper home for you. Do you understand that?
Yes.
That's good. All right, who would like to be the first to testify? Yes, Mrs. Parker.
A child, above all else, needs a proper education. As the town school teacher and a graduate of Westmoreland College for Women, there is no one more qualified to give this child the guidance and instruction she needs. I promise to give my full and undivided attention to these matters.
Well, thank you, Miss Parker. Your point's very well taken. All right, who's next?
Judge, you know, my wife and I don't have a lot of education, but we do have the biggest farm in the county. Plenty of room for a child to grow and learned the value of a good day's work. She'd have plenty of company with our 4 young'uns. She'd grow strong and healthy. And I think that's saying a lot nowadays.
I'd say that's perfectly true, sir. Thank you. Anyone else?
I believe everyone here has touched on some aspect necessary for the proper raising of a child. But with all due respect, I must point out that my wife and I can offer all of what has been said and more. We alone can send that dear girl to the finest boarding school in the state. With our ample resources, she will wear the best clothes, eat the best foods, and in short, lead the best life possible for a child in her unfortunate circumstances.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayfield. Thank you very much. Now, if there's no one else that has anything to say, I suppose it's time for me to...
I wanted...
Who's that? Tom Jenkins, you want to say something?
Yes, sir, I wanted to say...
I can't hear you, Tom. Come on up closer.
Judge, everybody, I guess you all know my wife Dottie and me. I fixed a lot of your wagons and roofs and water pumps. Just about everything else, I guess. Dottie and me, we don't have a lot of money, but we do all right. I guess you all know, too, that Dottie and me, we don't have any children. We tried. I suppose it just wasn't meant to be. But I promise you this. If we had Lucy, we'd love her. We'd cherish that girl every day for the rest of our lives. We'd hold her when she needed to be held. We'd kiss her every night before she went to sleep. We'd be her mom and her pop. And I guess that's all I can say. I hope it's enough.
Tom, do you realize how much of a sacrifice it is to raise a child?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Jenkins. You might please take your seat. Well, unless someone else has something to add, I'm prepared to make my decision.
Mr. Judge? Sir?
Yes.
Could I see his hands?
Who?
That man.
His hands? Tom, would you come back up here for a moment, please?
It was you. Please don't leave me. Don't ever leave me. Please don't leave me. Please don't leave me. Don't ever leave me.
Oh, don't cry, honey. Somebody will take care of you.
Tom, it was you, wasn't it? You were the one that saved that little girl from the fire.
I did what anybody would have done, Judge.
No, Tom. You did what a father would have done. Ladies and gentlemen, I've made my decision. I grant the custody of Lucy Fuller to Mr. and Mrs. Tom Jenkins.